The study of genetics stems from the dedicated work of the monk Gregor Mendel and his study of peas, and later from pioneers such as Thomas Hunt Morgan who worked with the Drosophila fruit fly. Choose a lesson and then press click here to begin.
Law of independent assortment.
In this lesson you will do the following. Cross homozygous peas with different alleles for 2 traits. Use the Punnett square to predict the outcome of the F2 generation. See how the predicted results compare to the grown peas. Learn how your observations validate the law of independent assortment. We are now going to talk about my second law, the law of independent assortment. Up until now we have been working with only one pair of alleles and what are technically called monohybrid crosses. Here one gene controls a single characteristic, such as color. But what if we combine plants with the 2 seemingly independent gene characteristics like color and texture? Would color affect surface texture, or would there be no change at all? We need to create a dihybrid cross experiment until the F2 generation to find out. Since we know how to make a prediction using the Punnett square, it will be the basis for our hypothesis. A match with real plantings would mean our prediction is valid. For our basic experiment we simply need to cross 2 homozygous peas that are opposite looking in their characteristics of color and texture. We can either use smooth yellow peas crossed with wrinkled green peas, or we can use wrinkled yellow peas crossed with smooth green peas. Let's predict this dihybrid cross in a Punnett square using smooth yellow and wrinkled green peas. Starting with the smooth yellow pea, we place all its possible allele combinations of SY in the top of the matrix. And with the wrinkled green pea, we place all its possible allele combinations of SY along the side. As I fill in the corresponding allele combinations of this F1 generation, you will see that the principle of dominance makes all the peas look smooth and yellow. To find any interesting patterns in the F2 generation, we will need to self-pollinate a pea. Press on any pea. Here again we will have to label the top and side with all possible allele pair combinations, but this time you will need to complete the Punnett square. Excellent. From our predicted data you will see that 9 different genotypes exist. However, if you look at the phenotypes you might notice a pattern or 2. The first thing you might notice is that there are 4 visually different phenotypes in an F2 dihybrid cross. If we sort these peas you will see that there is a 9:3 to 3:1 ratio. But, if you look closely you will see that there is a 3:1 phenotype ratio of dominant yellow to recessive green, just like in the last lesson. Also, There is a 3:1 phenotype ratio of dominant smooth to recessive wrinkled peas. Since these 3:1 phenotype ratios are identical to that from a monohybrid cross, our prediction suggests the alleles are assorted independently. Now let's see if a real dihybrid cross will match our hypothesis of independent assortment. Plant the smooth yellow and wrinkled green parents. Take pollen from one plant and place it on the other. Note that the peas from F1 generation all have the dominant characteristic traits. Click on any F1 pea to plant it. Allow the F1 plant to self-pollinate and produce F2 peas. Now sort the F2 peas into their various phenotypes. Excellent. This looks like the phenotypes in our Punnett square. Even though we are uncertain of the genotype of most of these peas, the phenotypes show us the same 3:1 ratios of yellow to green, and smooth to wrinkled peas. Because these theoretical results matched the many trials of what I actually grew, I was able to create a theory of independent assortment. This would eventually become known as Mendel's second law, or the law of independent assortment. Here it states the inheritance of alleles for one characteristic do not affect the inherited alleles of another characteristic. The basic conclusion here is that characteristics such as color are not related to, and do not affect other characteristics such as surface texture. Years later it was found that genetic linkages of alleles can exist if they are on the same chromosome. This explains why in our first lesson, the seed coat color was strangely linked to the flower color in my observations. You have now completed this lesson.